Don't put pressure on you much, Pete, but yeah, everything. Dayton Newport.
Well, I was just thinking about that one.
You got time.
Let's put Dateline Newport in. Okay. You got Dateline Newport.
We do. We do, as long as they know that we're not going to as soon as
That's right.
We'll make sure you do. welcome, dear family and friends, as we've come to say farewell, as we remember and celebrate our dear and very much loved John Keith Lennon. And I'm sure if we had a choice today, we wouldn't choose to be here. We would rather be anywhere else. But because of John, there's no place else that we could think of being. Our love, our respect, our memories, they bring us here. And we are honoured to stand in his memory, to hear the stories. We're allowed to laugh. We are allowed to cry as we express our love and our gratitude for John, a wonderful, proud Australian, dedicated to his family, his friends, his country. We welcome those who join us via live stream, and to all here, our hearts have come together under the banner of love for John. And after the service, you're invited to join with the family for refreshments as you would share further in the memories that you have and the love that John would have for you all. My name is Roswell. It's my privilege to be asked to preside over John's service today. And if you have your mobile phone with you, could I please ask that it would be silenced for the next little while? With John foremost in our hearts, we are delicately balancing grief and gratitude. Mourning allows us to feel deeply as we honour the past, while celebration cherishes a life well lived, the memories that endure. It's in this duality that we embrace both the pain of loss and the joy of having loved, as we remember John and his remarkable life. John was born on Tuesday, the 14th of April, 1953. His life would fill 72 extraordinary years to pass from us on Friday, 12th of September 2025. He would participate in the rewards of life, to fall in love, to be blessed with family and friends that would grow around him. For 51 of those years, not in a day but day by day, most wonderfully loving husband to his beloved Lewa, your best friend. The life and love shared with him was always in the present, filling the moment. With John just being himself, he would make you laugh, even when you were your crankiest. Rewarded in finding an absolute completeness in each other, you were a pair. A lifetime doesn't seem enough to share with the love of your life. Lisa, Melinda, John and Matt. Through every age and stage of life, John loved being your dad, the father you needed him to be, the cornerstone of family and a soft place to fall when life's lessons came hard. His love led by example, not explanation, to shape you to be happy in yourselves, to see you become your own persons of care and of character. He provided the best opportunities amid the beautiful chaos of creating a happy home, to leave an enduring sense of pride in who he was and forever will be. Adam, Julia and Rihanna too would be welcomed into his affections just the same, then loved as Pop to Sarah, Josh, Brandon, Samantha, Alex and Bella, and over again to Tyson, Braxton and Leighton. There was always a place by his side and in his heart for you all. The warmth of laughter, the simple joy of being together. When you mimicked him, he discovered the moment through your eyes to leave memories that you will never outgrow. A dear and close brother to Dorothy, Karen and Janice, through the dreams and the demands of life, to share a common history that would let you remember each other as you always were. And a brother's love lives outside the touch of time, to unite John with Ron and Steve and once more, to be with his dear mum Margaret after her recent passing and his father Roy, together bound in an unbroken bond. To nieces and nephews, to bring even more to John's life as he shared his love, laughter and warmth with you all. With that familiar warm and cheeky grin, John Lennon would be everyone's person. He was that bloke who made life bigger and better by setting the standards for relationship without even trying. His humility and generosity only made John more authentic and truly likeable. An open book, John would talk with anyone from everywhere. His consistent views of lifelong friendships and deep loyalty, the bonding camaraderie of serving his nation and community were the grounding principles that would let everyone be grateful for having John in their lives. John would do anything to help a mate. His humour was dry and quick-witted and often inappropriate. That made it even better. He had the habit of butchering jokes by forgetting the punchline, yet his self-deprecating style would bring everyone along for the ride. At other times, he was just a big kid, a playful tease. Regardless, it left him grinning and you the centre of his attention. He regaled you with feel-good stories of people and places, of adventure and misadventure, with an energy and a charisma that kept him engaged with what he was doing and well-liked with the people he did it with. What there was of his temper was short-lived. Without judgment, his nature was to forgive, to get on with helping hard times easier, to leave you feeling as if you were the only thing that mattered to him. Genuine to the core, John's efforts were not for personal gain, but for the collective well-being and the happiness of those he cherished most. John was a family man. Nothing defined him more than his love for and of you. The happiness of life was never more apparent when his soul was being fueled in your company, to leave a legacy that is not in the successes that he would achieve, but in the enduring values he would instill. And now with John's passing, there is much that seems out of place. Simply the habit of expecting him to be there. The comfort of his chatter, the depth of his smile, the laughter of life, to the expectation of creating more memories or having just one more conversation. It's through those well-established bonds of family and of friendship that John has given unreservedly and significantly into the lives of all here. So we know his memory is worth a generous spirit. And our words and our demonstration of love give rise and cause for the honouring of his life. And that's what you've made this gathering for, as John's hope and his legacy. But to tell further of John's life, loves and achievements, Matt, this is your time as you come to share of your father before Errol, Josh, Ruth and Ailsa come to speak of the special memories held close of John.
All right. I hate funerals. I can be a sympathetic crier at the best of times, and that's not really helpful when I'm the one up here facing everyone. But thankfully I'm here to talk about Dad, and he taught me how to deal with situations like this. I can't read. Born on the 14th of April 1953 in Camberdown, Sydney, Dad went to school in the Hurstville area. He was in brass bands from the age of 8, which led him to joining the Navy as a junior musician at the age of 15. After 20 years serving in the RAN and the Army bands, Dad went on to become a driving instructor, and then a business analyst at Telstra. And then I'm not quite sure how this one worked out. I think he might have been trying to bluff Mum, but he proposed that he was going to go and drive cars in his retirement. Didn't work out for him because Mum made him, and so Dad ended up spending the end of his career driving car carriers until he finally retired. So once Dad retired, he returned to his love of music, and he joined the Pine Rivers Brass Band and the Brisbane City Pops Orchestra, and then he later joined the band Rocus as a conductor. Dad met Mum when she was visiting her aunt who lived 3 doors down from the family home. For more than 50 years, Mum and Dad shared a love that was steady through every challenge. From the long stretches of military service that kept them apart to the chaos of raising us children, their commitment never wavered. Together they welcomed grandchildren and eventually great-grandchildren, and each new arrival was another chapter in the story they built side by side. Their marriage was a lesson to all of us in what respect and devotion really looks like, and they showed that love isn't just grand gestures, it's daily kindness, quiet understanding, and a shared sense of humour that can survive anything. And let's be honest, Dad never missed a chance to toss out an openly inappropriate joke about how much they loved each other. All right. Being with Dad for his last few days was difficult, but he was surrounded by those who loved him and who loved each other. We laughed and we joked and we talked about some of our favourite memories of Dad. But most of all, we cried a lot. What I wasn't expecting, though, was to be overcome with a sense of pride for the legacy that he leaves. And I can see a lot of Dad in myself and my brothers and sisters, as well as his grandkids. So in the spirit of legacy, I've compiled a number of traits Dad was well known for. Firstly, Dad was quite possibly the worst negotiator that I've ever seen in my life. He would bargain the price up when he was buying. He would bargain the price down when he was selling. And I think Mum even barred him from being in the front yard when the last place was listed for sale, lest he ends up talking to someone who was interested in buying the place. But you see, that's the thing about Dad. He was selfless, and he wouldn't think twice about helping others no matter what the circumstances, or whether they're family, friends, or complete strangers. Dad would just seem to know when one of the family was struggling, and he always had a way of helping. Whether it was out of the blue visits to sit and chat over a cuppa and at times have a snooze on your couch. Sometimes it would be a short phone call to check in and see how you're doing. And if you were really struggling, he would be the first one there, dropping everything to be by your side. And he certainly wasn't afraid to let someone know if they weren't doing the right thing by Mum or us kids. Dad was someone who would always do what's right, not necessarily what was easy. And most of all, Dad was always genuine. And sometimes, because of that, just hearing his voice was enough to take your troubles away. While Dad left the Navy before I was born, he always remained connected to the Navy community, and he was incredibly proud of his service history. He had an extensive collection of videos and photos of his time in the Navy, and Lisa, Melinda and Johnny were fortunate to see Dad in uniform and get to tour one of his favourite ships, the HMAS Melbourne. Dad was also proud of the military service of others, and he delighted in making sure that their military service was appropriately recognised. Whether it was educating the next generation on the service of their parents, grandparents or extended family, or making sure that the service medals were passed on through the generations. He took great pride in passing the value of service on to his children, and because of that, one of my core values is service. In saying that, Dad also taught us the value of not taking life too seriously. There was always time for a little fun to be had. He loved his toys and gadgets. He would be tinkering for hours, but what he enjoyed most was sharing this with the people he loved. Whether it was trying to speed up his aqua scooter for the kids or doing hot laps of the front yards with the grandkids on his mobility scooter. Dad was incredibly intelligent, and he was known for his ability to quickly understand how something worked and how to fix it when it broke. He loved to take things apart, and he'd proudly declare that he'd improved it by having leftover parts that were obviously not important. He'd always laugh it off when things didn't go to plan, and he was always one to get back up and try again. Dad also taught us the value of patience. He was known for finding the scenic route on any trip, no matter how long or short, and almost always without proper planning, including when to refuel. He loved to travel, and as a family when we were all living at home and later in life with Mum or his grandkids. Most trips involved a visit to friends or family, or something associated with his time in the Navy, and every trip was memorable for us kids and grandkids. Dad loved being outdoors, and we spent a lot of time at parks, beaches or parties with all these various band friends through the years. We have fond memories of the years we watched the New Year's Eve fireworks under the harbour bridge as a family, arriving early in the morning to find the best spot, and then having fun exploring or playing sports while we waited. But most of all, Dad loved Mum. After over 50 years of marriage, they could still laugh, have fun, and make fun of each other. Dad was always quick to pull us into line if we were ever mistreated, Mum, or if we ever took her for granted. And while Mum always used Dad as the threat of escalation when us kids were misbehaving, Dad actually knew that Mum was the final boss. And I think he was proud of her for that. Mum and Dad demonstrated for us how relationships should be about respect, mutual interests, honesty, spending time together, and most of all, having fun together. Their relationship was a bedrock for our family, and even though he is gone, his legacy will provide us with the strength to navigate the years ahead without him. Dad was our steady compass. His quiet strength guided us through every season of life. He led not with his words, but with his consistent example of respect, hard work, loyalty, and an unshakable love for family. That strength hasn't disappeared, and it lives on in the family he built, the values he instilled, and the network of love and support that surrounds Mum today. He made sure we would stand together, so she is never alone. In the way we care for one another, in the laughter we share, in the stories we tell, Dad's legacy continues.
Errol, if you would please come as you share.
Good afternoon. Firstly, I'd like to thank Labour and family for inviting us here today. An honour to be part of John's life, and I'd like to tell you a few little stories and the earlier part of his years, and a few little funny sagas that happened in our life in the Navy. As Matthew mentioned, he joined when he was 15, but he actually did the audition when he was 14. So, and I think most of us of the ex-bandies here would have done it at that early age or just on 15, and we joined as junior musicians. So when you think of it, a 14-year-old auditioning for the big picture in the Navy and being a musician, it was sort of an unknown territory of what was to come. He joined in May 1968 along with Kevin Hillier, who came up from Melbourne with me today, and a young man called Squeaky Evans. Again, a name some of us might remember, a Queenslander, I think if I remember, and he drove a GTHO Falcon. I'll come back to that in a minute as a little antidote. I met John first at the school in 1969, and we all, as junior musicians, went to the School of Music down in Cerberus, and we did our, not generally obligatory 2 years, but when we reached a standard that they can offload us to any ship that needed a ship's company or some destination that was short of a particular instrument, off we went. So I think, again, most of us in the early 17s, just touching 18, were either on the Melbourne, where John was, or on the flagship HMAS Sydney, which was the ship to be on back in the 70s, you know, cruising up to Vietnam and dropping a few things off and cruising home, where the Melbourne was a bit more intricate in its planes and its articulation into the war machine, as they say. So I saw John for the last time, back in 71 when he left the school. He went to the Melbourne, I went to the Sydney, and Kevin came across to the Sydney. I think you were already there when I came over, and a few other members here would remember that dissipation into all the different branches and depots that we went to. So we crossed paths quite a bit over the in the early 70s. John came off the Melbourne, or the whole ship's company came off the Melbourne to our grey funnel line Sydney, and we did a trip to USA, which was quite a sparkling occasion where two bands were squeezed into hammocks and out on the quarterdeck trying to get some sleep, and produced a large band for the US tour. That's where I think we all flourished. That's really where we learnt our craft. The school could only do so much to teach us, but it was in the band of hard knocks, as they say, where we learnt what a musician was and how he performed in the RAN. Yeah, so John moved between quite a few different depots, Cerberus, back to Melbourne, up to HMAS Penguin in Sydney. So he moved around a fair bit in his 20-odd years. And again, we always cross paths at certain points, either at band recordings or at special events like the opening of the Sydney Opera House and things like that. So, yeah, so again, we did quite a bit of cross-pathing. Well, John left in 1982 as a chief, so he'd reached the hallmarks of the band service before moving to officers course. So leaving there, he returned, and like most of us, returned to our state of origin. And from there, you sort of dissipated and you lost touch with, the direction of what we did and where we went. And that was in the late 80s. Then in mid-90s, we, with the instigation of what was called the RAN Band Association, was formed. And the media back in those days was either a telephone call or a handwritten letter. So the association built a plethora of guys that were in the Navy between the 40s, 50s, 60s, and obviously the 70s, which was our period. And the association became into being in a big way. So that's where I caught up with John again. And it's thanks to those guys that actually created the association that sort of brought us all back together into the fold as ex-members of the RAN. In the late 90s, again, we started to put together what's called the Veterans Band, which was an instigation of Ralph Daines. So through the 2000s, it was a thought and an idea, and it slowly built momentum. And I think the momentum was the 2000 march up in Sydney, and that sort of put it together that, yes, we're not that old not to play, and build a reputable ex-services veterans band. So John got involved in a pretty heavy way in the Veterans Band, and I think that's where, again, we sort of come together constantly. He became secretary through the 2000s with Ralph and had a lot of input into the Veterans Band. The Veterans Band travelled all over Southeast Asia, Singapore and Malaysia. We did concerts up the coast, Ballina and different locations. So it was a good rapport to come together as ex-musicians and play together once again. So that was really where I think we all sort of came back as one inspiration into playing and keeping in touch with each other. It was sadly that we missed him last year at the reunion, which was in Launceston. So I haven't seen him since then, and just a shame that we did miss John. A lot of shared memories, which I won't go into because I could be here for quite a while, and I've made plenty of notes on the flight up today, but I think we all have a really fond memory of John, and he's up in the sky with the rest of our friends, and I'd like to thank, again, Labor for having us here today. Thank you very much.
Josh, as you come to share of your pop.
Pop was a big part of the family, especially growing up as a grandchild. He loved every single one of us. He adored us, taught us everything about love, especially having fun, even teasing. Like, he loved to teach us how to tease, have fun. There was never a dull moment with Pop, especially during Christmas time when it was very stressful and you had Nan running around causing issues. And Pop was just the calmest, and you'd hear Nan yelling all the time. Or it would be us getting in trouble to be later found out that it was Pop instigating us to getting in trouble. Pop loved adventure. He would always go out camping, taking us all out. He adored much of the outdoors and always wanted us to come with him. took us everywhere whenever he could. And one of his biggest things that he loved was also naps. He loved his naps. I know I got told a story by Sammy that Sammy was out swimming one day and Pop fell asleep and Sammy was taken out by a current and had to be rescued by someone else while Pop was sleeping. He had a very big military history, loved it all, and basically instilled in all us that military is important, and probably inspired me to join the army, even though he probably wanted me to join the Navy. But grew up with Navy music. He just instilled us that even if none of us can play an instrument, that we can still enjoy music and just love it, even the way it was. He endured every single one of us down to everything. And just going to anything that he did with music was the biggest thing, especially Anzac days, hearing him play the bugle, down to him marching on Anzac Day, especially when that was probably the biggest memory of Alex. After seeing him pass, having a clown come up to Alex and scaring the living crap out of Alex. But Pop, to us, was just everything. He was calm at the most strangest times, just brought happiness no matter what. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Ruth from Pine Rivers Brass Band, would you please come and share your memories of John?
I'm probably going to be very quick. I think John was way too well behaved at band, from what I've been hearing. Your funny glasses just fell off the thing. John Lennon joined the Pine Rivers Brass Band in 2010. Yes, we all had a giggle about his name, but it became obvious very quickly what an accomplished musician he was. Instant respect. He was also a gentle, friendly, kind soul who was always quick to give encouragement and congratulations to others for their efforts, however, never seeked praise for himself. The band members became very fond of John. He firmly entrenched himself as a valuable and loved member of our little band family. John was also an accomplished conductor, and in 2018 he happily took on the role of Deputy Bandmaster, providing invaluable support to our musical director, Graham Drain. Graham considered John to be not only a talented musician and conductor, but also a dear friend. There were times when extracurricular activities were required for concerts, and John was always a willing participant. The main program item that will remain a very fond memory for me personally is when I put together a small team to perform a village people skit with full costumes. It was 3 years ago, and John readily agreed to be a part of this as long as he could be the sailor. Well, of course he could be the sailor. John was happy to give up his own time to come to my home on Sunday afternoons with the other participants to practice, and he definitely enjoyed the afternoon tea. It's fair to say, though, disco dancing to village people's songs was not a shining moment for John. The words, "It will be all right on the day," was often spoken by him every week. I feel very privileged to confidently be able to brag that I am most likely the only person here to have had the honour of John Lennon dancing in my garage. Lewa, I want you to know how special John was to all of us. He wasn't just a musician, he was an integral, supportive and much-loved friend, and I just hope he knew and felt that. On behalf of our band family, who are certainly hurting, I have put together a special little poem as our farewell to our dear friend. Now rests the hand, the breath, the song, yet in our hearts it lingers on. The band still plays, but one seat's bare. A silence lingers in the air. His cornets sang with warmth and pride, with feeling that can't be denied. A steady beat, a guiding tone. He made our brass band feel like home. Though now the music's missing part, his melody still fills each heart. For every march, each hymn, each song will carry echoes still of John. So band, lift up your instruments, let the music play, and smile for our bandsman who has marched on his way. Thank you.
And Ailsa, thank you.
John was our maestro, mentor and friend who led the Rocus Band over the past 9 years. Together, the journey has been one of not only playing lovely music, but also forming firm friendships, almost like family. There was never a morning when turning up for her rehearsal, John would say, "How are you going?" One day I replied, "One leg behind the other." He just chuckled and added, "Me too." He sometimes put his baton down and joined the trumpet section as he smiled and said on the side, "A little bit of light relief." He clearly had some favourite charts, and one with which he often started the Thursday morning rehearsal was Traces, which featured the tenor saxes. He had other favourites too, which we played occasionally. MacArthur Park springs to mind. John was particularly sensitive when selecting programs for forthcoming concerts. I recall going to AVO, Clayfield, to meet the lady who organised the residents' concerts there. Together, they mulled over thoughts on what genre or favourites the residents would like. Of course, the preference was for the 50s and 60s hits. Accordingly, he then tailored programs over the 4 years we played to very appreciative audiences. John's CV reads of a musical career commencing at the age of 9. What a distinguished musical journey to professional employment. It didn't stop there. During 14 years in the Navy, he performed in numerous countries and was recognised for active service in Vietnam and Southeast Asia. In retirement, he shared his musical expertise by conducting and playing in local bands such as our Rocus and others. During those 9 years as our conductor, he has been instrumental in delighting audiences while bringing joy to musicians. 9 years of special musical moments on all of us to reflect. Thank you.
As we've heard today, but I suspect that you already knew, John's life would be more than a collection of years. He was a mosaic of experiences, of passions, of connections, the vibrant and colourful journey of a man who would leave an enduring imprint upon all of your hearts, with countless moments and memories experienced with you all. So now we pause to catch a glimpse of some of those moments to be shown on the screen overhead.
Let's dance in style, let's dance for a while. Heaven can wait, we're only watching the skies. Hoping for the best, but expecting the worst. Are you gonna drop the bomb or not? Let us die young, let us live forever. Don't have the power, but we never say never. Sitting in the sand pit, life is a short trip. Music's for the sad man. Can you imagine when this race is run? Turn our golden faces into the sun. Praising our leaders, getting in tune. The music's played by the madman. Forever young, I wanna be forever young. Do you really wanna live forever? Forever, forever. Summer like water, summer like the heat. Some are the melodies, some are the beats. Sooner or later they'll all be gone. Why don't they stay young? It's hard to get old without a cause. I don't wanna perish like a fading horse. Youth is like diamonds in the sun. Diamonds are forever. Forever young, I wanna be forever young. Do you really wanna live forever? Forever, forever. Forever young, I wanna be forever young. Do you really wanna live forever? Forever, forever. Forever young, I wanna be forever young. Do you really wanna live forever? Forever, forever. Forever young, I wanna be forever young. Do you really wanna live forever? Forever.
Early morning, there's a message on my phone. It's my mother saying, darling, please come home. I fear the worst, but how could you leave us all behind? There's so much to say, but there's so little time. So how do I say goodbye? Someone who's been with me for my whole damn life. You gave me my name and the color of your eyes. See your face when I look at mine. So how do I say goodbye? When I couldn't, you always saw the best in me. Right or wrong, you're always on my side. But I'm scared of what life without you's like. And I saw the way she looked into your eyes. And I promise if you go, I will make sure she's alright. So how do I say goodbye? gonna steal some time and start again. You'll always be my closest friend. And someday we're gonna make it out. Just hold the light. Just hold the light high, high. So how do I say goodbye to someone who's been with me for my whole damn life? You gave me my name and the color of your eyes. I see your face when I look at mine. So how do I say goodbye? So how do I say goodbye?
Rows and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air and feather canyons everywhere. Looked at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun. They rain and they snow on everyone. So many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's cloud illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds. At all. Moons and Junes and Ferris wheels, the dizzy dancing way that you feel as every fairy tale comes real. I've looked at love that way, but now it's just another show. And you leave them laughing when you go. And if you can, don't let them know. Don't give yourself away. I've looked at love from both sides now, from give and take, and still somehow it's love's illusions that I recall. I really don't know love. Really don't know love at all.
I just don't know how you put a price on memories like those. And our tears, they are but memories in motion. They speak more eloquently than all the words we could ever summon. And while they are messengers of overwhelming grief, they tell of unspeakable love. Those memories, they won't be left behind in the echoes of our farewells. I know that there will be moments and conversations you've all shared with John that will come flooding back to further establish the significance of his love and of his character in your lives. And in our assembling here today, it's also most appropriate that we pay a lasting tribute to John, for one who has served his nation in defence of our freedom and securing our future. And I'd like to ask Don Churchwood and Merv Ward as they come in leading of the poppy service.
My name is Merv Ward, and I have Don Churchwood assisting me, and we're from members of the Naval Association, and we come from the Sangate branch. I have to acknowledge Chief Petty Officer Andrew Stanton from HMAS Moreton, a guest from a member from the Royal Australian Navy. On behalf of all of us from the Navy Association, I wish to pass on my condolences to the family, and we are very proud to be here today to pass this service on. The poppy service, I guess, for us is a final farewell to a member of our organisation. Right? The poppy service, it's been going since the 1920s, thereabouts, and it's been a symbol of commemoration. Right? They were first planted in the blooms in the battlefields in northern France and Belgium during the Great War. In folklore, the vivid red colour is a poppy. Came from the blood of the dead, soaking in the earth. The poppy grows rapidly in large numbers across the graves of thousands of soldiers, leading to the symbol of sacrifice and loss.
I have the honour of reading out John's statement of service. As earlier heard, John joined the Navy in 4th of May 1968. He discharged on the 3rd of May 1982. He joined as a junior musician and his rank on discharge was Chief Petty Officer. He also joined the Army, the Australian Regular Army, on the 13th of August 1982 and he discharged on the 12th of August 1988. I'll read John's postings. HMAS Cerberus, 4th of May 68, HMAS Penguin, 13th of July 70, HMAS Melbourne, 18th of January 71, HMAS Sydney, 4th of August 72, back to HMAS Cerberus, 8th of January 73, HMAS Penguin, 21st of January 74, HMAS Cerberus, 10th of January 77, HMAS Penguin, 7th of January 80, HMAS Melbourne, 12th of May 80, and finally HMAS Penguin, 11th of January 82. In John's Army service, he was in the 1st Military District Band on the 13th of August 82, the 2nd Military District Band on the 28th of January 87, and finally, unallotted list, the 2nd Military District, 21st of January 88. John's honours and awards while he served in both services: Australian Active Service Medal 1945 to 75 with Class Vietnam, the Vietnam Logistics and Support Medal, Australian Service Medal 1945 to 75 with Class Southeast Asia, the Defence Force Service Medal, the Australian Defence Medal, and a Return from Active Service badge. Thank you.
Their bodies rest in peace, and their name liveth for more. John Lennon, whose body raised and left now, and John's memory will always live on forevermore. We know that it's time to come for each of us when the Supreme Commander calls us from our earthly duties. However, we are prepared for this, right? We always leave sorrows behind for people who are left. John was one of the long-serving members and served his sovereign, the country, Navy, Army, and have made their personal contributions to the greater tradition of the services. The hour has come to the rest. The poppy is an emblem of sacrifice, a symbol of life offered in the service of one's country, is the link between the comrades and the left behind. We place the remembrance. Our family will come forward shortly. Can I ask the family and relatives to come forward? Stand down there, pass out the messages. Get in. After this. Can I ask serving and ex-service personnel who would wish to lay a poppy come forward, please? Can I ask who can stand? Will stand for the ode, please? They have no grave but the cruel sea, no flower lay at their head. A rusting hulk is their tombstone, a vast the ocean bed. They shall not grow old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them, lest we forget. Last place, please. Bugler. Be seated, thank you. That's it. This concludes our part of the poppy service. Thank you for
The Chief of Navy and all members of the Navy never forget those who gave service before us and in whose legacy we serve. That is why the Chief of Navy bestows Navy bereavement pins to wear in memory of those like John who gave their service to the nation and to the Royal Australian Navy. The Chief of Navy offers his condolences to you and hopes that you will wear this bereavement pin with remembrance and pride.
In a world that often rewards the loudest voices, there was a quiet strength in the way that John lived his life. He understood that character isn't something that you announce. It reveals itself over the years in how you show up for people, the promises that you keep, and the care you take with what matters. As a husband, a father, a grandfather, a brother, a friend, John's enduring qualities have woven themselves into your very being. A family tight-knit, taught well to be okay in sharing the joys and the challenges of life, to celebrate the milestones and the mayhems, to light up your future but also to shine on the past in the guise of fond memories. People like John are profoundly rare, not easily replicated, but he leaves something of himself in each of us, moments of laughter, lessons in resilience, quiet acts of generosity, wisdom imparted, kindness extended, dreams believed in. Now it's up to you to take the mantle of what John has deposited into your lives, the investment of his love, not for self-benefit, but to qualify you for the benefit of others, that you would continue to resonate the gift of his life, inspiring others just as he did you. And that's the mark of a life well lived, not counted in years, but in the way that it ripples outward, carried on by those left behind. What John gave through his actions, his humour, his presence, becomes part of who you are. And the ache that we feel now is proof that John's love mattered, that it still matters, and that he's still here. In every story retold, in the laughter that will bubble up unexpectedly when his name is mentioned, in those quiet moments where his wisdom will shape your choices and his warmth will hearten your loss. So while today hurts, we can take comfort in knowing that John's story doesn't end here. It lives on in you, around you, in the way that you choose to live from here on out. That's John's gift, a love that holds steady, a legacy that doesn't fade, and you'll carry it with you wherever you go. May we please be upstanding. John, the blessings, the difficulties, the joys, the challenges, the creating, the work, the love, the giving and the receiving, all have run their course. You've accomplished all that was asked of you. Nothing more can be so, other than that we let you go. You placed your heart into all that you did. It remains evident in all that you leave. Of laughter shared, kindness extended, love radiated to those who would know you. To grace our lives with the presence of a genuine smile and the importance of revering the time we have with loved ones. That we would cherish the memory of your words, your deeds and your character, but above all, to cherish your love. It's good that we could share in your life and receive from your soul. We value everything you have been and everything you sought to be. And so your life we honour. The paradigm of time has ceased. The reward of eternal rest is yours. With heavy hearts, your departure we accept, promising to never lose a single precious memory that will forever unite us with you. With tenderness of heart and the lasting whispers of love, we say farewell to our dear and greatly loved John Keith Lennon. And as we journey on, we uphold his legacy, committing to those who he has loved and selflessly served, not in fear, but in admiration for the courage of life, of love, and of all things good. And in this pursuit, may fond affection linger in the hearts of all who've had the privilege of knowing and loving John. So may you find richness and example in your memories of John, strength in support for your love for one another as you carry forward those memories. To be reminded that the greatest memorial to John is found in the way that we live out of the love that he would show. that we pass this way but once, to leave a legacy of love and unwavering respect. In just a moment, I'm going to ask our funeral director, Kim, to come forward in preparation for the recessional party so that John can be lovingly carried, departing this chapel on his final journey to rest. Once outside, the family will take some final private moments with John at the hearse. And while they do, could I ask that we please assemble as a guard of honour along the main drive in preparing for John's departure. Thank you for being here today for John. I know it's meant so much for Lewa, Lisa, Melinda, John and Matt. To have you here in closeness is a true testimony of your love and care. And in honour of John, I encourage you still as family and friends that you continue to share the fullness of your love, your tears, your laughter and fond memories of John. Thank you and good day.